Eureka. Eat and rest. With a little bit of luck, you're going to need all your energy. Your baby is the miracle the whole world's been waiting for. Shanty, shanty, shanty.
Welcome to Outside Issues with Audrey and Patrick. What struck you in the news this week? I know you watch obsessively like I do, or when you've got time for it anyway.
The National Guard in DC, all of a sudden, talk about, crime going up when it's actually down, and Trump and Putin meeting. And
that Zelensky was not invited, or that, he's not as really privy to these negotiations at this point. Obviously, Trump's got his favorite.
Oh, yeah. Trump's got his favorite dictator friend. And then, of course, Israel's announcement that they're just going to completely take over Gaza.
There was the Al-Jazeera reporter, al-Sharif, who was targeted and assassinated along with some other journalists. And I'd heard, I don't have the exact number at hand, but something in like the hundreds of journalists have been killed since October 8th, 2023. It's a war crime. You're not supposed to kill journalists. Clearly, for this genocide to continue, they're going to need to have a media blackout to some extent. You know what I mean? They can't have a complete media blackout, but they need to be able to control the narrative somehow. And so, that was really disturbing. As far as the Trump deploying the National Guard to D.C., obviously he did something like this in California a couple months ago. I have a pretty skeptical to negative view of our institutions and our current political order. The separation of powers and the checks and balances. I think I've always liked the idea of it, like most people who fancy themselves, lovers of democracy. But but when you see that it hasn't really it's still shaken out to a status quo that's pretty unequal and pretty undemocratic, regardless, having kind of this authoritarian takeover of the security apparatus by Trump is super disturbing. And, as much as we have disdain for cops, the idea of Trump appropriating the police and making them into kind of like his Praetorian Guard or his, paramilitary, that that's kind of what the idea of ICE has been, right? Is that ICE was going to be his workaround, that those will be Trump's cops. And he can kind of get around the Constitution whenever he needs to achieve his ends. But this seems like a ratcheting up. You know what I mean? He's, with very little pretense. I mean, this kind of vague assertion that crime is up in these cities, that he's going to, start rolling in the big guns. And that's, I mean, we don't know. We're not yet seeing what the immediate outcome of this is going to be, but it seems really, really bad.
It does seem really, really bad. But, hey, all part of a fascist day, right? What takes your breath away? What shocks you at this point? I saw that the Smithsonian is going to, they've been forced to edit a lot of the history as pertaining to Trump's version of history in America.
Which is funny because I would be really interested to hear him just tell, let's lay it out in a narrative form, like Trump's history of the United States. I wonder how far back it goes. I mean, we know that dates are out the window. There's not going to be dates. There's not going to be any of that real specific empirical data. But what does he know or care about history?
He probably doesn't even know it.
No, I mean, I heard somebody say once that he hasn't learned a new fact since 1985. He's got this kind of frozen in amber. This just smacks to me of a Heritage Foundation thing. This long-term conservative plan, redacting history in order to make sure that the wages stay low and the working hours are longer and that women have to stay at home and take care of the kids.
And get a bonus if you have a kid.
How's your week been?
It's been okay. Not good, not bad. Sort of just empty, I guess. That's the thing about me and depressive episodes is just I have nothing in my brain, and I have to sort of with my clients, I have to sort of pretend that I know what I'm talking about. Like, and I have to like ask them a ton of questions, and that's exhausting. Because usually, like in the beginning of when I'm seeing somebody, which I have a couple of people that I'm seeing, I'll be like, "How are you doing? Like, well, how have you been since the last week?" And I'm like, they're like, "Oh, everything's great. Everything's fine." Okay, if everything's fine, then why are you here? Like,
Right.
sometimes like, because I have people, it is cool because Gen Z is really like big on mental health. And I have a couple of Gen Z clients who like just want to stay on top of their mental health.
So it's completely destigmatized and they are just like stoked to be doing the maintenance.
A lot of the times, like I got to just be really careful about like pushing somebody. Even though like I know exactly what to do. I know exactly like where this feeling comes from and that. I know this came from childhood. I know this came from you growing up. Like I know this is intergenerational trauma stored in the body. Like one week they'll be like, okay, like I really need to start healing. Let's get this going. And I'm like, fuck yeah, like let's get this going. You know, I've have some people who have substance use problems. Usually it's so hard for people to like admit that or start recognizing that. And you know, me, I just want to get into like the questionnaires about like, oh, do you feel like you need to stop drinking? Has anybody else commented on your drinking? Like I get it, like you're going to be in denial for a while. But that's like kind of the big thing, and they'll save it to the end of the session. They'll say something like, after you know talking about house cleaners or detergent or it's just whatever, like then they'll be like, oh, by the way, like I wanted to bring up that I think I want to like quit drinking. I think I drink too much. And my family says that I drink too much. And I was like, okay, let's explore this. And then by the time I say that, it's over.
How do you help somebody who's still in that denial about their substance abuse? Because I'll just speak from personal experience. I had a therapist for a long time before my current sobriety. And clearly the biggest obstacle towards me getting better with any of my problems was my addiction. But I just wasn't able to do it. And so there were just a lot of sessions where I would show up loaded sometimes. And so I'd have to leave early. Or, I just, the devastation, from when I did get loaded, you know what I mean? I would bring that with me into the session. And so much of the therapy just ended up being just her sitting with me in this lonely era of my life. But yeah, like what tools are available to you to talk to somebody who's just so deep in it?
Honestly, the AA brochure about like, are you an alcoholic? The questionnaire. I usually use that because I think, I mean, in my opinion, it's like a good indicator of like if you have a drinking problem. Like, I think that I was trying to use it today or yesterday, and I think that some of the questions are like, do you feel like you have to have another drink after like the first kind of drink? Has your family said anything or friends said anything about your drinking? Do you want to drink, but you feel like you need it or something? And whenever I don't even remember what it was like trying to like go and see someone when I was loaded, especially meth. I just avoided it altogether because I was like, this is embarrassing. I'm on meth.
Oh yeah. So what you're saying is that, you wouldn't have even attempted to do mental health, or treatment, during those days.
No, which is horrible for me. I used alcohol and opiates and meth and all of that stuff to self-medicate. And I thought, oh, because I've been through so much. I have these mental health issues. I have these drug issues. Like I'll be fine. Like just self-medicating. Like I'm aware and knowledgeable about mental health. I don't need therapy. So yeah, I just wouldn't go. And then up until I got sober and I started going to meetings all the time, then I would go back. I mean, I was required to by my IOP. Yeah, getting sober is a hard thing, especially I think we've talked about this. I tend to like focus a lot on harm reduction first, and see where that goes. Especially with people I work with who are drinking to self-medicate, and then they're not on any other type of medication. And if they were on this kind of medication, they can't drink in the first place because it like screws up the chemicals.
If you're trying to adopt like a more of a harm reduction framework to dealing with addiction troubles, you're finding that you can't moderate, then that's going to be necessary information. Like it's all part of a process. So why wouldn't you first try? Well, just see if you can do marijuana maintenance, or just see if you can just stick to all the tricks. You know what I mean? Just move from hard liquor to beer or whatever it is. And then, yeah, just play that out. Maybe it'll be a workable program. But if not, then that's also useful, right? Because you're demonstrating the dead end, that may or may not exist to trying to get something under control.
Have you ever like done something like that to like sort of try to convince yourself that you weren't an addict or an alcoholic? Because I certainly did.
It was so weird, like just the way that and I hope you won't mind, I kind of refer to myself as insane. That's just the way that I think of myself as back then. Yeah, is that my insane mind clocked that I was an addict from pretty early, but I think that I still had this sense that it could be corralled somehow, that like I wouldn't have to do any abstinence, full stop from the things that I like to do, but that there would be just like, just some way to moderate. I think that there was that contradiction. Yes, I am hopelessly addicted, but there's hope in the half measure. And so that's what I think I was working on for a while, and it just didn't take, I wasn't able to drink like a lady.
Yeah, neither was I.
Yeah.
I was at all the Manhattan Beach bars like every single weekend. Just one time I was down at, oh my God, I don't know. I remember that place, but they have very strong Long Islands.
Was it, the most like scumbag coated bar down there, and I would go to it from time to time, is Baja Sharkies, just the name of it.
Oh.
It's just right.
Oh yeah, I've been there.
Was that it though? Was that the Long Islands at Baja Sharkies?
I think North Manhattan, but this was at the pier. There's this hotel that, I would also go for drinks, and I would like go on these like meaningless dates and stuff to this hotel just to get drunk. And there was a bachelorette party going on outside, and I crashed the party, and I was just like, ladies, I'm here, and they're like, who are you? And I was like, I'm here for fun. And they took me in, thank God.
Yeah. God, the blackouts, I had a lot of those. And a lot of times my mom would have to pull me out of a cab or a Uber or something, because I would arrive to my destination just completely out. Of course, dinners with friends and movies. And, I went to at the Redondo Beach Performing Arts Center, would show like plays and stuff sometimes. I remember going there with my parents. They got us like tickets to go see something cool. And I was on something, and I passed out in the middle of the show, and then I just kind of came to stumbling back to the, whatever the exit vehicle was. And I was conscious enough to just be aware of how much I disappointed my family, who just wanted to have a good night out. And I mean, how could you not call that an illness? It's like, I think my intention was to be a part of, but like, I couldn't, at that point in time, I could not live with myself sober. And so this would just lead me into all kinds of weird, dust ups. Yeah. I don't miss it. I really don't miss it. Like and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for how like unworkable it all was, because that's what got me here.
I don't think I've heard anybody say that they've gotten fully sober. I have a couple of people that are just doing harm reduction right now, and they seem to be doing okay. It's crucial that like we monitor that though, to make sure like, hey, like, where are you in this sort of journey? Are you ever gonna like, completely abstain? Like, if not, like, how many like drinks will you have? Let's make a plan. Let's make a safety plan kind of stuff. But yeah, I've never met anybody sober with the people I'm working with. So I thought that was interesting. I haven't met a sober person.
Well, tell me what you think about this. Like, the way I try to describe like my illness to people is that there's something that inside of me that I was medicating with the drugs and alcohol that cannot be effectively treated with the drugs and alcohol. There's like a soul sickness. There's like, it's that, one drink is too many, 1,000 is never enough. I feel like for people who are addicts, that is why they must eventually get sober. Clearly, many people don't. And, some people, some alcoholics, they might have shortened lives, but, they drink to the end of their life. And, it's not alcoholism, an active alcoholism doesn't foreclose on existence necessarily. It's just a very problematic and painful one. It could be a short one. That is why when I tell people about my drinking, I said that I was incapable of really enjoying it because I was always trying to get past the drink that I was currently drinking to the next drink and the next drink and the next drink. And if I'm always trying to get past the moment that I'm currently in, my discomfort is so out of control, you know what I mean, that I'm always just kind of trying to jump ahead in order to kind of like fill this unfillable void. Yeah. Then there's something very wrong. When you notice somebody there's something that they're trying to treat with the chemicals, that the chemicals are just not up to the task of doing. That's a real candidate for good old-fashioned sobriety. Yeah, I think so. Especially with the population that I work with, using substances is definitely not just a like day-to-day thing. It's like they use it to numb out, and so did I. And then, a lot of people in Washington have problems with marijuana, like a lot. Huh. A whole lot. Like everybody, I mean, maybe people are lying to me, but like they'll say like, and when I'm first meeting them, I'm like, okay, do you do any drugs, any alcohol? And they'd say like, yeah, I do a lot of marijuana and I can't stop. But it's okay. It's marijuana. And so I was like, well, we can touch that stone when we get to it. Like if you're feeling uncomfortable using this much weed, then hey, let's dissect that. But, a lot of people are just very hesitant. They're like, oh, I think I'm fine. Like, I just use it. So like whenever I feel anxious, and I was like, yes, that's when you should pay attention. I think the most is like when you're starting to feel anxious, you need to go to like a drug or marijuana for whatever. Well, I relate a lot. I mean, because I smoked weed every day until I was 31 years old, more or less. And and that has taken me my current sobriety date. But like, I just didn't think there was any other way to live. And, speaking of my parents, I took a lot of influence from them. They're huge potheads and, they still smoke to this day. And they're just kind of chill hippies who, knew how to reel it back in when their drinking or their pot use would get too out of control. And I was just not built like them. I was not able to reel it back in. But, like, the way that I relate to those individuals you're talking about with the weed addiction is just that life on life's terms is very challenging and very complicated, and anxiety is real. And, like even for this podcast, like this, I would consider this podcast like something that's a real highlight of my week. And, we had a guest that was planned for today and the rug got pulled out from under us. And so we're just, we're pivoting and, we're doing kind of something a little more improvised. But like, I have so much just performance pressure and anxiety and, even around this like real source of joy and kind of like meaning, in my life, it's kind of new. But I'm like choosing to do that unaided, like I'm not taking any drugs to try and like make this reality that I'm trying to conform to anything different than it is. And that is like the work of every day of being a sober person, is like you just kind of like fake your way through it. And and I understand why that is so unappealing because it was very unappealing to me for very many years. Me too. Yeah, I couldn't imagine. I mean, I would lie and be like, oh, I don't really drink. Oh, I've never done drugs, which is a complete bullshit lie. Wait, you used to say that? Or yeah, I'd be like, I don't do drugs at all. Meanwhile, like I have a meth pipe in my room. Like, what you reminded me of is those early days when I was smoking weed, when I had the glass pipes and I would like, hide them around my room. Yeah, I'm just remembering this. I haven't thought about this for the longest time, but like drug paraphernalia is just icky. You know, like it's just you've got this like dirty resin soaked glass thing or whatever it is you've got, you know what I mean? The bong or like the ashtray. And like there's like a side of my consciousness that could look at that and recognize, you know, this is like not the best look, man, you know, or maybe this is like, you know, there's an image you have of the person that you would like to be or the life that you would like to have, you know what I mean? And there's this thing that you're doing that is like in contradiction of it. But you know, hey, I hit that and I'm not worried about such questions anymore.
I was just thinking when you're talking about like this podcast and like performance anxiety and stuff like that, instantly, you know, both my mental health professional and former pill popper personality came up and wanted to recommend a medication. So it's this medication called propranolol, and like it's a beta blocker. So like it doesn't have any. It's non habit forming. It
prevents me from being a beta.
Yeah. I forgot. Yeah. You're not a beta.
I could use that. Yeah. Okay. So did you see there's this Christian nationalist pastor named Doug Wilson, and they interviewed him on CNN. Sue-Ann sent me a video of these like kind of ultra nationalist Christians that Pete Hegseth is actually the Secretary of Defense is pretty tight with, or you know, he's like a devotee of like this, you know, this strain of Christianity, but like
because he's so Christian, he believes in helping
well
people.
Yeah, I mean just real kind of lunatic stuff, and they don't believe that women should have the right to vote. You know, they don't think that obviously women should earn the same amount that men do. There's this quote that's just stuck in my head from the interview, and I'm going to link to it in the show notes. It's a real sideshow. Women are the kind of people that people come out of.
Oh, okay. We're just,
I guess what he means is, you know, women be having kids. I guess that's
it. That's all we are. You know, we're just vessels for human life. I don't know if you've heard that song, like "Too Much Labor."
No.
I'll send it to you at some point. Basically, it's just like we're here to like please men in all these different types of ways, like being the perfect lover, being the perfect like confidant, being the perfect house cleaner. It's just, and then of course, like the perfect mother. It's like, it's so exhausting to have that mental load. I've been talking with some folks about the mental load recently. You don't even have to like have children to have the mental load. Like we see like, okay, this needs to be taken care of. I need to make a note of that. This needs to be taken care of. This needs to be cleaned up. Like we just see everything that needs to be done. And like our male partners don't do it, but we like have this like massive to-do list in our brain that just weigh on us really heavily.
You know what I thought was really cool about you when we started to get to know each other is you're still looking forward to motherhood, or you know, you're kind of like that's part of your life plan is that you want to be a mom at some point.
Yeah, I do. It's like I need to get past my mental block of like, hey, I'm in my late 30s. I'm going to die soon, like, because I'm so old. Like, you know, and that's societal pressure too, and even medical pressure, because doctors and like, you know, OBGYNs will sometimes really make a big fuss about nothing. You know, I was speaking with someone at one point who said that her doctor, and this person is our age, her doctor said that it's going to be hard to get pregnant because you're so old, and also because like you've had an abortion in the past. Sort of this rhetoric that the medical community puts out about women and our age, and then in context of having children, it's really insulting, I want to say.
Well, right. I mean, well, you would think that like the way that they would be fulfilling their role in like the most helpful way would just be you're giving them the best information you can in light of their decision one way or the other, right? That's what I would think, rather than trying to circumvent somebody's decision or kind of like do a father knows best and kind of get them to.
And this friend of mine ended up pregnant anyway, like healthy pregnancy. Everyone's healthy. So it's
wow. Good thing they didn't take the advice then, right?
Yeah. And I remember speaking with her and I was like, that just sounds like bullshit that your doctor said. Luckily, whenever I've been to the doctor, they haven't said anything like that to me. But like I have this mental block in my head. If I were to go to a doctor now, like I'm still sort of scared of what like the societal control of medical rhetoric would say about my choices. And I wasn't able to have kids at the right age because personally, I was drunk and doing drugs all the time.
Yeah.
That big 40 like looming for women is just like, I got to get past that. That's something I need to work on with my therapist. Like, why do I feel that way? Like, where did it come from? Why does it affect me so much? Why does it emotionally hurt a lot? Why am I jealous of people 10 years younger than me? There's just so much crap that goes on with that sort of stuff. And so I need to separate myself from what I think that others are saying or thinking, and sort of just go with the flow and what my own thoughts are and my own actions.
You know, the main reason I'm jealous of people 10 years younger than me is that they just have more time, because I understand now what time can buy you, you know, what you can do with time. Now, of course, I don't want to get too in my head about that, because I would be ignoring the massive amount of time I still have as a 39-year-old but you know, I was having a conversation with some friends outside my home group on Monday about having kids. And don't you always hate, I don't know, does it ever happen to you when you're just like in a big group of people and somebody asks you just like a very personal question about, he asked what the deal was, why I wasn't interested. And it's like, well, is your partner also not want to have kids? And, you know, never mind that I had a vasectomy last year. So I've, you know, kind of, I've made that decision already kind of like, you know, firmly and as like decisively as I could back then. But anyway, the answer that I had was that I was raised with a lot of privilege, and I had so many advantages growing up, and everything just went so completely awry at one point. You know what I mean? And I almost like lost my life. I got really deep into addiction, and there were friends and family members that were wondering, well, did they lose me? Or, you know, was this kind of relatively functional person ever going to come back online? And then eventually I did. But I suppose, like, how could I go through that and then not have some fear around, like, look, this is like people doing everything right, or is, you know, this is with all the advantages, you know, it was still a mom and dad almost lost their son, you know, and like, I guess I just like I don't have that belief in my own abilities to kind of like keep my kid from running into a power lines, you know.
You know, the typical sort of line that is valid is like, I don't want to bring my kids into this world. Yeah, but it's interesting. Now you're included in the long list of friends who have decided to be childless. Most everyone from my friend group and at Maricosta and all, nobody has children. I think one person has a child, but we're just nobody's close with them anymore. What I'm seeing is a lot of people like utilizing their money to have these experiences, which I think is really cool. And like some of my best friends like use the money for things like bold fashion choices. And it's like, I think we've like been alive, like millennials of this age, we've gone through enough trauma that we're allowed to make bold fashion choices at this point. Going on vacation, like multiple times a year, like, and it's saved money. And, you know, unfortunately, because I'm a social worker, I don't have that kind of money. But I'm really glad that my friends do, and that they're able to just like have fun and be carefree in their marriage and relationships, and not like be worried about this pressure to have a child.
Yeah, they're going full selfish.
Full selfish, right? Yeah. Yeah, I really have a couple of people call their dogs their children, which is fair, dogs and cats.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm probably gonna be like in that category somewhat, or I'll be ashamed enough of it that I won't just come right out and wear it on my sleeve, but in my heart, it's my
Yeah.
kid. Yeah.
Right. And it's valid. Like totally, they are like kids. They take a lot of your time and a lot of your work. Like, yeah, I think I'm the only one left, so to speak, of my friends who are interested in being a parent. Just gotta, like I said, I'm a social worker, gotta get finances together. Like thinking about all the physical pressure and the physical toll that it will take on me, like to just be pregnant, because I don't know if I've mentioned this to you, but I was pregnant in 2015 and I got an abortion.
Yeah, you mentioned.
Yeah. And that was so hard to go through, even though I was only pregnant for like 9 weeks. It was so hard to go through, like the sickness and like the moods and the physical changes, the weird cravings. Like I wanted seafood and I hate seafood.
I've heard about women craving dirt and like things like that. Have you ever heard about that?
No, I
Or
haven't.
like metallic. Like I don't know. I've heard that there's like things that the brain tells you in pregnancy to want. That. Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
Oh, it's okay. I I haven't heard that, but I'll get back to you once I guess it's happening for me and
I've got a jar squared away for you.
Perfect.
So, yeah.
Amazing.
We can get so doomer about everything, but like it's that is a real shot across the bow. Is like, I'm going to bring another person into this because I believe that there's some territory to be gained here.
I mean, you just like make more progressives. Like there you go. Like
you're building an army.
Yeah, like you just have another person to indoctrinate, right?
I'm sure you can see the murder closet that I'm broadcasting from. You're getting over a cold, right?
Yeah, so if I cough, I'm sorry. You're gonna have to do some editing. But yeah, I've been, it's part of having a toddler and a baby is they constantly bring home lots of illnesses. So I've had a cough for like about a week, just at the tail end of it, hopefully, because I need to try to get some exercise soon or I'm gonna die.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was a virus going around because I actually, for our audiences who is unaware, this is my AA sponsor, Danny, and I first met him during the tail end of COVID. I was really struggling in the rooms because I just felt like, there was a lot of conservative type guys that like I didn't mesh well with, and there's a lot of kind of like anti-masking, I suppose. It's funny. Yeah. It's quaint now. We think back to like the masking era, and I don't know. I just felt like there was a lot of fear and tension that I had just surrounding politics, and I needed somebody that I could work with in recovery, who was kind of on my wavelength, or at least could like who could like identify with some of the the resentments and the fears that I was having. And so a really good friend of mine, Josh, put me together with Danny, and we've been working on not drinking and using ever since. So
there was a lot of insanity back then, and luckily now it's all gone and everyone's normal, and
yeah, everything's better now. But what I was going to say though is that so there was COVID, but then there was this virus going around that only children, or that primarily children, contracted, and then you got that back then.
The RSV, yeah, I remember getting RSV. Was worse than COVID for me. It was bad. And a lot of things they said that they're like, oh yeah, only kids get this and this or that. RSV, apparently, when I got it was horrible. And because they have actually just came out with the vaccine for it too, but it's only for old people. You can't get it if you're young, if you're like below 60 or something. Then and then there was hand, foot, and mouth disease, which is like basically like the plague and is horrific, which supposedly adults don't get, and I got. It was horrible.
So you got the plague, technically.
No, it wasn't the bacterium Yersinia pestis, which is technically the bubonic plague, but it was pretty horrific. Your hands get all these blisters that are extremely so painful that you like can't sleep at all at night. It's horrible.
So my perception of you when you go through these things, just like, and you work super hard and a lot of hours, and then you're raising two kids, and like you just seem like it seems like water off a duck's back, or whatever. That's what you project anyway. But like that must not be the reality on the inside, right? I mean, it's really fucking tough. Like these challenges that you go through.
It's just trudging. It's all it is. I mean, like, what is toughness, right? What is something that's hard, or like, I don't know, what is so difficult that it inflicts suffering upon you, right? Like, what is that? Is it like having to do a lot of tasks? Is it that you don't have enough free time to do the things that you want? Is it you don't have as much freedom to do what you want? Is it that you don't sleep a lot? Right? I mean, all of those things are just things, right? But I mean, this is very like Marcus Aurelius Stoic, but right, but like how that affects you is only a function of your inability to accept it, right? That's why like it was important for me when my first son was born. It's like, all right, you just give up your life, right? Basically to this baby, and like you're just all consumed by it. And then it's just a matter of like, okay, what can, and in negotiation with your partner, like what can we take back into our lives, right? Like sleeping more, eating normally, right? And then like maybe getting a little bit of exercise here and there, getting a little socializing time. And for me, it was really important to just be able to get to meetings, right? Like, hey, like, it was like, a month or so I had no meeting. I'm like, I need to go to meeting, right? Like, so it's like pulling back the important things back into your life, but you have to, if you don't start, I think with like a total like abdication of all your desires and wants, then it's going to be more of a struggle, right? You have to let everything go and then just see what you can take back. And the second kid, it was like that, but even more extreme. It's like, wow, like now it's really insane.
Well, what I'm hearing is
yeah.
that you like, what really helped is that you didn't have this fixation on like a certain expectation that it was going to be one way or another. Like you're the one constant was going to be.
I knew it was going to suck. Like, here's the thing. Like, I think, I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of people have kids for a lot of different reasons. And I think for me, the decision is, do I want children? Yes or no, right? And like, my answer was yes. I want to propagate my family. I want to propagate my own genes. I think it's an interesting thing to do, and it's probably important and justifies my place in the world a little bit more, right? It's like, and once you make that decision, you go with what's left. I'm not like, oh, I'm going to have kids because I believe it's going to be this fun, flowery, like happy strawberries and cream thing. I never believed any of that, right? I'm just like, it's probably going to suck a lot. Maybe it'll be nice. I don't know. I didn't have any conception that I figured it was probably going to suck a lot. And then when things are really beautiful, like today I took, my kids to the Orange County Fair, and, my son got to like ride some rides like for the first time by himself, and like go to a petting zoo and do all these things for the first time. I'm like, wow, this is really beautiful to see this. And you're just kind of pleasantly surprised by those moments, right? But I just expected it to really suck. And then, you're not really disappointed by it in any way. And what it feels like, I mean, it's just trudging, right? It just feels like you're in, you're in a deep mud and just pulling out one leg in your boot, taking one step, taking another boot, and it's foggy and it's cold and it's hard, and you just keep moving one foot in front of the other until, you either collapse from exhaustion, or you get shot, or you make it out into the other side. That's all I do.
You told me the other day that your dad wasn't around that much when you were growing up, and so did you recognize like pretty early that like this would be an opportunity for you to just do things differently and provide something that maybe you didn't have when you were growing up?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's something that I thought about a lot because, yeah, I mean, my dad wasn't around so much. My parents were never really together like much at all. Like, my mom was 19 when I was born, right? So it was a very unique circumstance. I mean, me and my mom had practically raised each other. we were both kids at the time, so it was rough. I think a lot of my independence and like, just not relying on other things and people comes from that, right? And it was hard. It's not something I wish to impose on others, and I'm sure, has contributed to many character defects as well for me. But it's something that I was very conscious of, like especially at the beginning, like I did not want to be seen as like a deadbeat dad or someone who wasn't there for his kids, right? That was very, very important to me, to just be present, like number one. And to put, and that might be why I was so willing to give everything up at first, because I had and it's hard because it's a negative conception, right? I didn't have a positive role model. I remember like growing up in San Pedro, right? I'm from San Pedro, California. For people who aren't familiar with it, it's where the ghetto meets the sea in Los Angeles.
I love it.
It's all longshoremen and fishermen and a lot of drugs, and it's a pretty crazy place. And when I grew up, like I said, my mom was young and I would be out with my friends, all of our parents were kind of messed up, and my mom is now sober for like 15 and a half years as well, so we're both doing this thing together. But yeah, I mean, we had zero role models like of anything, I didn't know anyone who like anyone's parents who like wore a suit to work, who were still together, or who like, didn't get arrested from time to time. I just didn't have that. I remember it was only in high school. I remember my high school girlfriend, like she had a stable family, and I was just like, wow, this is amazing. Like I'd never seen anything like this. And her dad was like my hero, just because he was just like this very, like, it just was like a normal type of family system that he provided for and took care of them. And like, and it was amazing to see something like that. And I only have these brief glimpses of people or models that I can do after, but really it's just about like, just wanting to be present and do the best I can, because I don't have too much to go off of, and I want to have these aspirations. Like one thing that I felt really like things where I felt it was missing in my life, right? Like I always wanted to play sports. I had a resentment against my mom for a while because I never got signed up for baseball. I always wanted to play baseball ever since I was a kid, and no one ever signed me up. And I didn't, I wasn't really like, didn't have a lot of opportunities to do things. So like, I'm trying to like get my son involved in stuff, because I felt like I just sucked at everything my whole life. I never had anyone, here's how to do this, Danny, here's how to do that. It's like, I would just show up on the street with my friends at 9 years old, and, had, they all skateboarded. I'm like, well, I need a skateboard. And so I think they assembled like a couple old pairs of trucks and wheels and bearings and a really busted skateboard deck, and I didn't have grip tape, so we went door to door, and told people that we were Boy Scouts, and with a coffee can collecting money for something, until I got $6 so I could go to the skate shop and get some grip tape for my skateboard, and that was kind of how I had to get my start with things in the world. So I'm like, I had this goal. I'm like, I want to set my son up, both of them, I have swim lessons that we do right now ever since he was 8 months old, and I wanted to get him like, doing junior lifeguards and doing surfing, and I do sailboat racing now, and everyone who I sail with is really good. I'm horrible, even despite having done it for 8 years. And they all grew up in, like Nantucket and Rhode Island and New York, where they sail since they're 5 years old. And I want to get, my kids just have they might hate it. Maybe they'll reject it all later. But like, at least you have some starting point in your life, and that's something I never felt that I had. And that's something I want to inculcate. So yeah, it's hard because, like I said, I don't have an example per se. I only have negative examples, and my dad and I love my dad, and he's great, and we get along, reasonably well. But he was young too, and but just been more of a friend, right, than like a fatherly figure in a lot of ways for me.
Did you figure out pretty early, like that you had the right partner for this?
Oh yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm.
Was
Yeah,
it
I could
like,
tell.
and it was probably partner dependent, right? It's like, you wouldn't have really been ready for the kids unless you knew that you had someone solid.
Yeah, I mean, you have this discussion, and you want to make sure that you have someone, who's stable, which is really important. And especially for me, because I tended so often to vacillate between partners who were unstable, but for me, which I would find that attractive, and stable, but which would like make me bored, right? And fortunately, landing on someone who's very stable and very conscientious and dependable, that's something that I think is overlooked, right? And I'll if you will divulge me into, an aside about the way people choose partners and relationships. I find it so interesting because a lot of people, especially as they get older and they really struggle to find like the one or the person,
Hmm.
like they want every single box to be checked, and they want to have this feeling of like, Romeo and Juliet style infatuation, to just remain and be with them always, and to be so positive. And
They forgot about the ending of Romeo and Juliet, though.
yeah, and people have these so unrealistic expectations about relationships, and it's just about like, like you really need to find someone who is a good, stable person, and that's often very overlooked. And where you can have these discussions about, and who you can rely on, and who you can build a life with. It's just very, very, very important. And I knew that I had that with Nisha, you know,
What does she have
early
that you
on.
don't have, and what do you have that she doesn't have?
Well, I have a lot more experience being a drug addict.
Nice.
That's one thing.
I actually do. I think I do understand what you mean. I mean, that does bring like an awareness that
I guess, yeah. I mean,
people who haven't burned it all down will never understand.
I'll know what to smell for, and what to look for when they're a teenager. But yeah, and what she has that I don't have is, I mean, I don't mean this in like a in like a painting a gender role sense of it or anything, but just the amount of affection and love and I don't know, connection she has with our kids is something that's very special and unique. And it's not like I don't have affection for them, obviously, but like, there's just something about a mother's love and just the way of what how caring a person she is, that I think is just very unique. And I'm really grateful. And my both my sons are very lucky to have her, to be able to be so caring and loving, all the time for them, and like I said, not like that I'm not, but it's very special.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Well, like, how's the state of the world hitting you these days? And like, how, do you think about your kids? And like we kind of part of how I got the idea to interview you for this episode
Yeah.
is that we were supposed to have a guest for this episode, and the guest fell through, and so
Mm.
Audrey and I just found ourselves trying
Got
to
to be your
make.
backup.
Yeah, well, no, but we were just gonna do me and her, and then
Okay.
like halfway through the recording, I remember that we'd had some early conversations just about like life goals and passions and things, and she'd
Hmm.
always wanted to be a mom, and for me, I've decided not to have children,
Hmm.
um, and um, and anyway, like she's somebody that's very much of our progressive persuasion,
Hmm.
and so she's fully cognizant of like how and how much trouble the world is in, and
Yeah.
this United States and the ecology and democracy, but she just that's part of her progressivism is that she want
Hmm.
is that she believes in a future, and then she believes in a future that she's wants to advocate for, that her child can exist in. And I feel like you must
Hmm.
have similar, designs or hopes at least. Like how you been dealing with all the fear? I mean, because we're every day is just it's an onslaught.
Well, one thing to remember to keep in mind, right? Going back, was it 26 years? You remember Harvey Danger?
No, who's Harvey Danger?
The wait, was it Harvey Danger, or was it
Rodney Dangerfield?
no, 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 no. Was it Harvey, or was it Bare Naked Ladies? I forget. Flagpole Sitta, right? It's like that really famous song. Is it?
I always remember Bare Naked Ladies do the theme song for American Pie, or one of them. 1 week.
I know. I'm confusing those two songs. Yeah, okay. No, this is Harvey Danger, from 1997. Been around the world and found that only stupid people are breeding. The creeps cloning and feeding, and I don't even own a TV. Remember that?
Yeah, 100%.
Right? Yeah. So, yeah, and just remember that, right? Like, it's the stupid people that we don't like that are having a lot of kids, right? So, number one, it's just like AA, where you think, well, I'm not going to go to that meeting. I get nothing out of it, right? Well, what are you providing to that meeting, right? So, like, what can I provide to the world that's going to make it a little bit better? And that's ideally kids that aren't complete shitheads. Although, from the perspective of having a 3-year-old, that's been unsuccessful so far.
We all have our moments.
Yeah. So that's one thing. And the other thing is just I'm just too fucking tired for the most part to like actually have an existential fear about it in any sense. It's just like I'm just trying to get through the day. It's also an important, from a political angle too, important thing to remember about like the electorate as a whole, right? Most people are just trying to get through their day. They have very little capacity to think about complex issues. And so when we, think about political strategy, you always want to keep that in mind that it's just, yeah, even people who are very progressive like me, it's just like, you're just trying to get through the day. You're not really getting too wrapped up in like, how is this going to affect the way they grow up and how is like, it's just, you're just like, I just want to sleep like more than one consecutive hour tonight. Please God. Like that's all I'm fucking thinking about,
Yeah. Well, there's an aspect of, you got to get out of your head a little bit.
Yeah. Right. So yeah, don't get in your head, number one. Yeah. And I think where it does come through is more on the local level. Right. And because I've had conversation, thinking about my son's 3 and then he's going to go to public school in like, a year or two. And it's like, well, Huntington Beach, where we live, is a very notorious, like skinhead, Nazi place, in Orange County. What does it mean to have kids who are half Indian, in these places, right? So like that's where it's a little more like, like actually what do we have to deal with, on the local standpoint. And that's scary for sure, because like how am I gonna have to deal? That's something I'm gonna have to deal with at some point, like some skinhead dad whose kid is some fucking dickhead.
Yeah, I mean the stakes are so enormous and God, like what an election we just had.
Yeah.
I'm not happy with the outcome. Yeah.
No. No, and I think, and you see the, the repercussions, right? And there's going to be, everything is going to have a backlash, and I just, at this point, I'm just, I'm kind of resigned to the fact that we're just fucking cooked because no one can get their shit together on our side, from any circumstance. And, but what is going to happen? There's like, nothing is ever totally shit forever, right? Like we were totally screwed in 2004. Like I remember losing in 2004 and thinking like with Bush so bad, having screwed up Iraq so bad, it was already turning pretty bad at that point. The lies were all clear and just, and that was just such I wrote a Substack article about this, about how stupid that era was and how this era is.
I love that article. Yeah. I'll link to it in the show notes. Yeah. That was the first election I voted in actually in 2004, Kerry Bush.
Yeah. Right. Who'd you vote for?
I voted for Kerry and I was similarly, I was in the dorms. I was in the most like, the shit-lib den of villainy, San Francisco State University, and watching the debates. And yeah, I thought for sure Kerry had it in the bag, and he did not, and I was heartbroken. You know what I mean? But I was, many such cases now.
Yeah, man. The Swift Boat Veterans for Truth.
Yeah, I was reading. Did you read Al Franken at all back in the day?
Lies and the Lying Liars Who Tell Them.
Yeah, I was reading that.
That was one of my very early political books. That and Michael Moore's Stupid White People were like my formative political books.
Yeah, and those guys. I mean, I think that there's a lot of truth in what they said, and it remains true to today. But yeah, well,
it's almost trite today. Everything they said, right? I mean, it's just, it's just that thing where it's, it gets so exhausting because you realize you just make the same arguments with people who aren't like the other side is not a they're not what's the term?
Well, they're playing a different game somewhat.
Yeah, well, yeah, they're not honorable, right? They're not yeah, they're playing a different game. They're not really they're not having a discussion or interested in discussion on any logical terms or anything, right? It's just whatever. It's all vibes,
Right.
right?
I feel like it's not a matter of convincing people on the right to be leftist. It's more about identifying people that maybe haven't made up their mind yet, that are susceptible to something different, and just trying in that way to, bring people more.
It's just important to remember that those people are not super smart.
Not
And
always.
and
No.
and when we make those arguments, they need to be very simplistic, right? Like
Well, yeah, and those tend to be
we tend to make really overcomplicated arguments to people who are not sophisticated, and that causes issues.
right. Well, not sophisticated, and also just busy, and and
Like I
think,
said, busy.
yeah.
Exactly. That's why I circle back to, right? It's not like, it's not a level of intelligence thing, but it's like you have 5 minutes to hear anything. And now, I mean, at least they used to see it on like some news channel that had some basis in universally accepted truth, but now it's just something they scroll on TikTok for 5 minutes. And it's some insane thing about how a vaccine is going to turn your kid gay. Right. And like maybe this is believable. I don't know. I haven't seen the other research of that, like,
Well,
and
yeah.
and like it's like, how do you make arguments against these like these micronized, you can't like, I don't know. It's a very difficult thing to do. But I think what we are going to do is we're going to ride like a big fat backlash. It's going to be very interesting, and I don't think that, the things that are going to lead us to a return are going to be what they expect them to be. I think they're going to be kind of stupid. It's like, it's funny, like the Epstein stuff, right? Like, what's the stuff that actually hits Epstein, man? Like,
Oh, it's
all the other
salacious.
stuff,
Yeah, it's
like
exciting.
pulling, innocent people off the streets and shipping them to detention centers, and, calling martial law in our cities, and having an insurrection against the United States government, and, taking bribes and all. Like, no one cares about that. It's just all this a little too complicated. Like the Epstein man, like pedophiles, like that's just like, it's got to be simple. It's got to be
Right.
simple. That's the only thing that people can process. So whatever like our return has to be, it has to be something very simple like that, because you can see what ignites people and what doesn't nowadays.
A quick impression, you know what I mean, with some real substance behind it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like, make sure that you make the impression.
Yeah.
Do you like Zoran Mamdani? I think he's cool.
I love him. He's great. Fantastic.
Yeah. I read an article that Obama has kind of taken an interest in him. He hasn't endorsed.
Yeah, he called him apparently. I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, which tells me like, he knows which way the wind's blowing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jinx.
Yeah. Well, thank you for adding your voice to this, and I will not be having kids, but I hope that I can keep clotheslining Bruce, and just
he loves that. Yeah,
teaching him some humility.
But and actually, so one more thing, I thought that was an interesting observation, especially coming from not having a dad and my own character defects, right? This dawned on me like a couple weeks ago. So my son, he's an asshole, right? And he like and he's a walking middle finger, I say, and he will say to me, he stands up to me when I tell him to go to sleep. He will fight and writhe and kick and whatever to like get away from whatever I'm trying to get him to do, like physically, right? Like he's just like, he will stand up to me, which is shocking. And I remember I had this realization that like, wow, he's so like as much of a pain he is, there's a lot of bravery to stand up to someone who's so much stronger than you like that, right? And I realized I never had a father figure to stand up to and defy. And I'm like, maybe that's something that's very important for a young man to go through that I never went through. Right. And maybe that's something that builds a lot of confidence. And maybe that's why I lack so much confidence,
That's a real deep observation. It reminds me of I got a D+ on my political science paper when I was in high school.
Really?
Get this. My high school teacher who taught poli-sci was named Marx. He was not a Marxist, far from it.
K-S or X?
X. Oh yeah, spelled like Groucho and Carl. Yeah. But anyway, he had this judo move where he would like give everybody D's at first to like get you on on your heels.
Oh my God.
And then he would like really kind of try and bring you in, and he was a tough guy. But anyway, I went home with this report card, and I think before I took it home, I kind of pulled the teacher aside, and I'm just like, I'm going to get reamed for this, and please help me. I'm trying to do well in your class. And anyway, he told my mom on the phone later. He's like, Patrick has a healthy amount of respect for it, or a healthy amount of fear for his his father. And I did. I think it was a healthy fear, and now that's all evened out. I mean, I could kick his ass now. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
It all turns around. My son will kick my ass someday.
That'll be a glorious day.
Exactly.
Well, thanks, Danny.
Thanks a lot, Patrick. Love seeing you, man.
Love seeing you. Say hi to Nisha for me.
Will do, man. Have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye.